Well, my friends, it is happening again. A lawyer for former Vice President Mike Pence recently discovered a dozen classified documents at Mike Pence's Indiana home. These documents have now been turned over to the FBI for review. Now, at this early stage in this new investigation related to classified documents, it's not completely clear what documents were found at Mike Pence's house, their level of sensitivity or other details. But let's remember that multiple times former Vice President Mike Pence stated, there are no classified documents in my possession. There are no classified documents at my house. Now, let's think about this just for a moment, because this is becoming a much bigger story than any particular classified document, although we will get to the aspect of the story that relates to classification. That's a separate story. It's a relevant one, but it's a separate story. Think for a moment. The same Republicans who were furiously, apoplectically up in arms about the supposed mishandling of classified documents at Joe Biden's private office and residence are now conveniently silent about the discovery of classified documents at the home of another one of their own. Because remember, the same thing happened with Donald Trump with hundreds of documents, which he tried to keep and wanted at his house. Orders of magnitude difference between these stories. But one could argue, you put the Trump situation aside, that the Biden and Pence situations are much more analogous or similar. I want to remind you of some things that former Vice President Mike Pence previously said. Here is an interview that Mike Pence gave to ABC News back in November, and this exact topic came up.
You take any classified documents with you from the White House?
I did not.
No.
Do you see any reason for anyone to take classified documents with them leaving the White House?
Well, there'd be no reason to have classified documents, particularly if they were in an unprotected area.
Right. Now, is his answer technically correct in that someone else took them, assistants took them, whatever? You know, we start to get into this more semantic discussion of what does it really mean to take? What does it really mean to have? What does it really mean to relocate a document? But of course, the spirit of this conversation is that there are no such documents at his house. Here's another example of Mike Pence. This was from earlier this month, in fact. Take a listen to this one.
Our staff reviewed all of the materials in our office and in our residence to ensure that there were no classified materials that left the White House or remained in our possession. And I remain confident that that was done in a thorough and careful way.
I guess it wasn't, right? I guess he was wrong about that as well, and has completely lost control of what's going on in his home. I mean, there were funhouse mirrors and you couldn't tell that the documents were classified. Who the hell knows? But obviously not true. Let's look at one more instance of this. Here is Mike Pence in a previous interview saying he doesn't want to diminish the importance of protecting classified documents and that everything was very buttoned up. Every I was crossed and T dotted. I know. It's a Hannity thing. Here is Mike Pence.
Ever want to diminish the importance of protecting classified documents and the nation's secret? And there was a very formal process during my time.
It was super formal. Everybody wore tuxedos while they did it.
At the White House to see to that.
Yeah, no, it all happened. Oh, by the way, he had documents at his house despite claiming multiple times that he didn't. So my biggest issue with this story is the astounding hypocrisy that has come to light and has become, I mean, unabashedly, they don't even blush when they present their double standards. And it goes to show that the Republican Party will play politics with national security. If we believe that they consider this issue of classified documents to be a matter of national security, they claim it is, at least when it's Joe Biden. If we believe that, and yet they still use these situations to attack the opposing party, but never themselves, it means they are turning a blind eye to the very national security issue that they claim these classified document situations represent. which means there is nothing they will not play politics with. And that's absolutely the case. Now, there's another issue. OK, I read online people saying, well, at this point, you should really check every former president's house and office and every former vice president's house and office, apparently, because of what's going on. I propose to you that this is not limited to presidents and vice presidents. It would be a shock to me if they were to search the offices and residences of cabinet members, for example, maybe not Secretary of the Interior, but certainly like Secretary of State as an example. I would be shocked if there weren't some classified documents at the homes of others as well. Democrats, Republicans, notice I'm not mentioning partisan politics here. Is it ridiculous or is it to be expected? I don't know. The truth is that elected officials review thousands or tens of thousands of files when they're in office. Things get moved around. Things could get misfiled, misclassified, misplaced, whatever. It's not a defense, by the way. I believe every one of these cases should be investigated. And I'll get to that in a moment. But when you are dealing with this volume of documents, and you're dealing with human beings, after all, it's not a huge shock. What it shouldn't be is a partisan issue. If it is determined that files have been found, and it genuinely seems that it was an accident, an oversight, whatever, they should be returned immediately. Law enforcement should look into it. And then we have to move on and go beyond that. Now, as I said before, the DOJ should treat every one of these situations the same in that they should investigate all of them. If and when the investigation reveals that the facts of each situation is different, then you start dealing with the situations differently. And so if you look at the Pence and Biden situations, which I do believe are quite similar, and you find this was not intentional, these documents were found and immediately turned over, et cetera, et cetera. And then you look at the Trump situation and you're talking about hundreds, not a dozen documents. You're talking about people on video moving these documents around when Trump has already been asked to return them. You look at Trump using lawyers to try not to return them, and then the lawyers lie and say, we've turned over everything we have, but then it turns out they didn't. That is a different set of facts. And so that would change the scope and nature of the investigation. Now, Mitch McConnell was asked about this, and he sort of played coy. Take a look at what he said.
What is your level of concern about classified records showing up at Joe Biden's home? And now we're learning about what happened to Mike Pence. And what specifically should Congress do to prevent this from happening again?
Well, with regard to how the Justice Department handles it, I think they ought to treat everybody the same who has misplaced classified documents.
Now, that is an interesting statement because it does appear that Joe Biden misplaced documents. From what we know, at this point, it seems as though Mike Pence misplaced documents, but Trump stole documents. Trump had gathered up hundreds of documents and had them sent to his house. That's very different than a dozen documents were left over and they were found and immediately returned. So in a sense, the spirit of what Mitch McConnell is saying, sure, yeah, I mean, treat all of these things the same and that they should all be investigated. But misplaced is a mischaracterization of much of what we believe took place here. Now, I want to bring up a separate but valid issue. Is there overclassification of documents in the United States? I'm not going to be able to answer this question for you. In order to really answer this question accurately, one needs to have access to documents I simply don't have access to. And one needs to have insight into the exact process for classification that I certainly don't have. But we've talked about overcriminalization in society as a problem. And separately, there are people who have access to this apparatus of classification who say that in the United States, we habitually overclassify documents and that arguably some of these documents could be the Biden documents, the Pence documents, the Trump documents, whatever. Some of these documents maybe really shouldn't even have been classified in the first place. A difficult question for me or many of you in the audience to answer, but certainly a valid question that can and should be asked.